Mr. Trump, thanks so much for doing this.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. So some surprising news out of Iowa, where in 2 polls now, Dr. Ben Carson has pulled ahead of you, one by 8 points, one by 9 points. What's your message to Iowans? Why should they vote for you and not Dr. Carson?
Well, first of all, I was really surprised to see it because 3 nights ago I was in Iowa. We had a packed house. We had 4,000 people, and it was a love fest. And I've done really well with the evangelicals and with the Tea Party and everything, and I just don't understand the number. But you know what? I accept the number. It means I have to work a little bit harder in Iowa. I think it's just the same. I mean, I'm going to make our country great again. We're going to do trade pacts that are incredible instead of like incompetent, because what we have right now with China, with Japan, with everybody is just incredible. And nobody's going to be able to do what I do in terms of making our country wealthy again so we can do all the things we want to do, including the military and the vets and taking care of people. So I'm just going to have to work a little bit harder in Iowa. I was very surprised to see the numbers. You know, I had a lead, and it sort of flip-flopped a little bit with Ben Carson. And I like Ben, but he cannot do with trade like I do with trade. He can't do with a lot of things like I do. So we'll just have to see what happens.
Well, you guys disagree. You two disagree on a number of issues. Immigration is one of them. Are you going to start contrasting your positions with his more?
Well, I think so. I mean, you just bring up one. He's very, very weak on immigration, and I'm very strong on immigration. He believes in amnesty strongly. He believes on citizenship. I mean, he's going to give citizenship to people that are here illegally, and you can't do that. And, you know, we disagree on other things also. But I think the big thing also is he's just not going to be able to do deals with China, to do deals with Japan. These countries are all ripping us like nobody has ever ripped us before.
Another position where you two disagree is he thinks everyone should pay taxes, including the poor. He proposed something like tithing from the Bible, where everybody pays 10 or 15 or 20%. You don't. You believe in progressive taxation.
I agree with him 100%.
Oh, you do?
Except for one problem. I know how to administer. I know how to get things done. I know how to run a company or a country. And you're going to have millions of people and millions of tax returns coming in, and you're talking about an IRS, you'd have to build it even bigger than it is right now. And the amount is going to be so little. And I want it to run right. What I want to do is create opportunity, create jobs so that people get back on the tax rolls. You're talking about millions and tens of millions of tax returns going in with the dollar, where it costs you much more than that just to administer. So I agree with him 100%. I like the idea that everybody should pay something. But most of these people are paying nothing now. They have nothing. And what are you going to do? So I believe in proper management, proper administration. I'd love everybody to pay because psychologically I think that's good. But from an administration standpoint, it would be a total nightmare.
I want to ask you about specifically a group that he seems to be beating you with. The Des Moines Register poll shows he's beating you in Iowa with born-again Christians, 33% to 18%. You've stayed pretty steady with born-again Christians. He's gone up. The poll also asked Iowa Republicans if they view as a committed Christian. 32% said yes, 28% said no, and 40% said they weren't sure. Now, back in September, Dr. Carson was asked what distinguishes him from you, and he mentioned faith. He brought it up. He said, quote, "Probably the biggest thing I've realized where my success has come from, and I don't in any way deny my faith in God." Do you think that that comment in any way might have affected evangelical support for him?
No, because, look, as far as I can only speak for myself. I don't like to talk about somebody else's faith. I can say that I'm a Presbyterian, I'm a believer, I do very well with the evangelicals. I was surprised. This is actually the first time that he's done better than me, but I'd match myself against just about everybody. I am a believer, and they've always really taken, they like me. I've gone to many meetings. We've had 28 of the great ministers last week. You probably saw that, and pastors from all over the country, and so many. And they really, I've had a great relationship with Christianity, and frankly, I would say every bit as good as his. So I don't understand the poll. I actually don't.
Paul Ryan is likely to be the next Speaker of the House. You have referred to him as weak on immigration.
Very weak on immigration.
Are you concerned about that? If you become president, he'll be the Speaker of the House. He could...
They have to pick somebody. I think I'll get along with him great. And he can change. But they have to pick somebody. Right now, they have no idea who they're going to pick. It looks like it's going to be Paul Ryan. I think he's a very nice guy. I think he's a very capable guy. But there are a couple of issues that he's very weak on. And one of those issues is immigration. And we have to be strong. We have to have a border. We have to have a wall. We're going to have a wall.
Should House Republicans not support him for Speaker because of this?
I don't think that's going to happen because they can't come up with another name. So even the people that are very conservative, very hard-line conservative, look like they're falling into line. You see what's happening. So I think he'll be Speaker, and I think I'll get along very well with him.
Let's turn to the issue of super PACs and big money in politics. You issued a statement this week disavowing all super PACs that are out there in your name, requesting that they return all of the donations and calling on all presidential candidates to do the same. Why?
It's a scam. It's a big, fat scam. These super PACs are a disaster. I think they said 9 or 10 super PACs were set up in my name. I don't even know who these people are. You have all these people raising money, I guess in the name of Trump, that we love Trump, and some of them, I'm sure, do. And probably some of them don't. And I have no idea what they're going to do with the money they're raising. But they're raising all of this money, and they're going to spend it on the campaign. And we have, you know, the candidates aren't supposed to be involved in all that stuff. But they have all this money going. Nobody even knows who the people are. Nobody knows where they are. Nobody knows what they're doing with the money. It's a whole big scam. If you look at Ben Carson spending money from super PACs all over the place. Now I hear his super PACs are going to merge. I've heard that his super PACs are essentially running his campaign in Iowa, where they're actually running his campaign, where they're doing all of the groundwork and everything. That's not what the purpose of a super PAC was supposed to be. And by the way, Jeb Bush, the same thing. He's got one of his best friends that heads up his super PAC. And I'm calling on all candidates to disavow their super PACs. It's a scam. They know it. It's a joke. I mean, it's a joke. They're all laughing about it. I laugh about it.
You just brought up Jeb Bush. He was on my show last week, and he had some very tough things to say about you not being a serious candidate, about his having grave concerns about you being commander-in-chief. I want to give you an opportunity to respond.
Well, I'm going to respond. Look, he happens to be a very nice person. As I've said, he's a low-energy person. By the way, Ben Carson's a very low-energy person. We need high-energy people.
Why?
But because you need energy. We are so far behind the 8 ball. You need a stronger temperament. You have to have a strong temperament. I've watched people all of my life. And I know all about low-energy guys, okay? It doesn't work. It doesn't work. When you're dealing with China, these people come in, they're fierce. They're fierce. And you have to be you need a certain temperament. I remember when Jeb would say that, gee, he's a little bit too strong. We need strength. They're cutting off people's heads in Syria and all over the Middle East. I mean, we need people that have a certain strength. I know more about this than Jeb will ever know. I have more common sense, and I'm a far better leader than Jeb. Jeb will never be a leader. So
why do you keep talking about Jeb Bush when Ben Carson is here?
Well, because I always thought, no, I talk about Ben Carson too. I think Ben Carson's a very low energy person. Actually, I think Ben Carson is lower energy than Jeb, if you want to know the truth. We need strong energy. The thing with Ben, he's got a very good PAC, and he's got people running his PAC, and in my opinion, he's got people all over Iowa from his PAC, and they're running. Ben doesn't even go to Iowa that much, and he's doing well in Iowa. So I think that the super PACs are a real problem in terms of our country, and I am talking about Ben. I did talk about Jeb because I thought Jeb was going to be the front runner. Obviously, he's no longer the front runner. I probably won't talk about him so much anymore.
Carson criticized your proposal to deport 11 million undocumented immigrants. He said it would cause the collapse of the farming industry. That's obviously something of major concern.
People can come, they can come with visas, they come right back in. In other words, people can come back in with visas.
So you don't buy that critique?
Look, we either have a country or not. These are illegal people. There are at least 11 million. Nobody knows. Could be 30 million. But there are at least 11 million. I've been hearing that number for years, so it's probably wrong. Could be less, could be more. But they can come back in. They can come back in with visas. They can come back in with work permits. They can be worker permits. They can come back in. But I would tell Carson, and I would tell other people that are very weak on it, Jeb happens to be, Rubio happens to be very weak on immigration. He was a member of the Gang of Eight. They wanted to give the whole country away, Rubio. Then his polls went down, and all of a sudden, he got out of the Gang of Eight very fast. But they're weak on immigration. I'm very strong on immigration. We either have a country or we don't. And we either have borders or we don't.